Steps to solving a rational equation. First step is to determine the values of the variable that result in an undefined rational expression in the rational equation. Step 2 is to determine the least common denominator of all of the denominators. Step 3 is to multiply each term by the lowest common denominator and simplify the expression on each side. Solve the resulting equation. Always check your solutions. A rational equation is an equation that contains a rational expression. In short, it looks like a fraction. 1 divided by 3x plus 5 divided by 6 equals 2 divided by x. Our step 1 is to find our common denominator. And take note that we're not allowed to plug 0 in for x. Our common denominator between the 3x, the 6, and the x will be 6x. So multiplying each term by 6x, we can simplify. The 3x goes into 6x 2 times, and 2 times 1 is 2. The 6 goes into 6x, leaving you x, and x times 5 is 5x. And then the x divides into the 6x 6 times, and 6 times 2 is 12. So that big messy fraction business simplified to a 2 plus 5x equals 12. Subtract your 2 on both sides. Divide by 5 on both sides, and we get x equals 2. Now compare the x equals 2 with what we said in the beginning. X was not allowed to equal. X was not allowed to equal 0. So there's no contradiction here. Let's take our value of x, plug it back into the equation to make sure it checks out. When you plug in 2 for x, we end up with 1 over 6 plus 5 over 6. So the left-hand side equals 1 and the right-hand side equals 1 as well. Now our solution set is 2. Now let's solve 3 divided by y plus 5 equals 3 divided by 3y minus 2. First, we realize that y is not allowed to equal negative 5, because that would make the denominator 0, and y is also not allowed to equal to 2/3. Then we find our common denominator. In this case, it's the product of the two denominators. We're going to multiply each term by the lowest common denominator. On the left-hand side, we can see that the y plus 5 cancels out. And on the right-hand side, we can see that the 3y minus 2 cancels out. And that leaves us with 3y minus 2 times 3 plus 3 times y plus 5. Next, distribute the 3's on either side. We then combine our like terms. Now we add the 6 to both sides. And finally, divide by 6. This gives us y equals 7/2. Compare that to what we said in the beginning, and it works out. Now we check our solution. Plug in the 7/2 in for y, and make sure the left side equals the right side. Gather up some common denominators on both sides. Remember rules of fractions. And the left-hand side equals the right-hand side. So we can conclude that our solution set is 7/2. An extraneous solution is a solution that is obtained through solving that does not satisfy the original equation. So for example, if you take 2 divided by a minus 6 minus 5 equals 2 times a minus 5 divided by a minus 6. We first have to note that a is not allowed to equal 6 because this would make our denominator 0. Then we find our common denominator, which is the a minus 6. So we're going to multiply each term by a minus 6. We can cancel out the extras, and we're left with 2 minus 5 times a minus 6 equals 2 times a minus 5. Now we want to clear away the parentheses by distributing. Keep in mind on the left-hand side, you're distributing a negative 5. So when you distribute the negative 5 over the negative 6, you end up with a positive 30. That's key. Gather up like terms. Finally divide. We got that a equals 6. In the beginning, we said that a could not equal 6. And if you plug the a back in, you can see why. When we plug in a for 6 for a, we get a denominator in both cases becomes 0. So this has no solution, and specifically it's called an extraneous solution.